It all sounds very green. The Environment Secretary Ed Davey has been urging other countries to get serious about tackling climate change. At the UN's climate talks in Warsaw, Mr. Davey said Britain would push for a deal cutting carbon emissions by 50% across Europe. But back home, it's all very different. The Conservatives are trying to get rid of green energy levies to the dismay of campaigners. We'll be talking with the Environment Secretary in just a moment. But first, here's our science editor, Tom Clark.
There's lots of ways of making electricity. But here in Britain, like the rest of the world, most of it comes from burning planet-warming fossil fuels. Today, ministers assemble at global climate talks in Warsaw to continue trying to thrash out a deal on reducing carbon emissions. Our government has gone to Warsaw as one of the more progressive nations, telling others to reduce their emissions to the environment. But back home, it's a very different story. We've got Conservative politicians saying they're going to get rid of green energy initiatives, and an electricity sector in virtual chaos. Take this modern gas-fired power station, hardly being used because it's more profitable for power companies to burn far dirtier coal. As well as making better use of the plants we've got, like Barking Power Station, we need to build a lot more new energy infrastructure. A report this week from Ernst & Young found there are plenty of investors queuing up to build it. But they won't spend any money until they know whether the government wants green energy, more fossil fuels, or cheaper bills.
I think the promise of David Cameron to be the greenest government ever has been a bit more of a green wash than something that really stands up to scrutiny. What we've seen in the last few years are emissions going up, investment in clean energy halved, but also it hasn't helped our country, and I don't think it helps our reputation on the world stage when we witness every day the bickering that's going on within the coalition government.
As an issue, energy pushes all sorts of buttons: economic, environmental and social. And the cost of bills versus the cost of climate disaster makes it a messy political battleground. In the last 3 months alone, the Labour Party has said they want to freeze energy bills for consumers. The Conservative Party has said they want to scrap some of those green energy tariffs. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats say they'll leave things pretty much the way they are. Anyone trying to win an election knows voters worried about keeping warm through winter don't necessarily have the future of the Earth's climate system at the front of their minds. It's why the UK has a Climate Change Act that forces successive governments to reduce emissions.
Whatever the government is, the pressures are always to do things which are immediately necessary. And that's why we passed the Climate Change Act, because it ensures that you can't do that. Countries like China are actually practically doing more than we're doing. Mexico, South Africa is doing remarkably.
You can tell it's a climate summit. Here comes Ban Ki-moon on a bamboo bike. But the smiles today in Warsaw conceal the fact it's not going well. Japan, Canada and Australia are bailing on their commitments to cut carbon. And it only makes our Environment Secretary's job harder, selling a green Britain to the rest of the world, while back home, many voters worry they're paying too much already.